Welcome back, aliens. My name is Navin Reddy, and let's continue with this series of Python. And in this video, we'll talk about one of my favorite topics, which is called as data types. Now, why it's so important? Because we have worked with variables, right? And everything was working. Now, when you work on a project, it's very important to understand what type of data you're working with so that you can process that data in that format. Because if you don't process the data in that particular format, you might face errors or maybe bugs, and trust me, bugs are horrifying. So what are the data types we have here? So let me just list those things here. The first one is none. Second one is numeric. The third one we have is list, tuple, set, string, range, and map. Or you can call it as dictionary. Now let's start with the first one. The first one is none. Know what it means? Now when you have a variable and if that variable is not assigned with any value, it is none. Normally in other languages we use a keyword as null, but in Python we use none. The second one is numeric type. Now if we talk about numeric, we have multiple types here. In fact, we can go with 4. The first one is int. Then we have float, then we have complex, and we have bool. So when you talk about numeric, it works numbers, right? Example, when I say num is equal to 2.5, now this is float, okay? So float value. Now, how do we know that this is float? In fact, in the last session, we have done that, right? So we can use a type as a function, and in this you can pass num, and you can say it says class float. Again, we'll talk about class later, okay, what class means, but time being, it's a float. Okay, so now I will say another number. I will say num is equal to 5. Of course, we can change the type of variable, right? So now if I assign 5, if I say num, and you can see the class now changed to int. That means the type of this num is int. We also have complex, right? Now what complex means? So if I will say num is equal to, now if you remember mathematics, we used to have this concept of complex numbers, right? Now how do we represent complex numbers? So we used to say a plus bj, or in fact it was I in complex number, but here we have to use j. Now we can replace the value of a with a number. I will say 6 plus maybe 9 j. Normally this j is represented by a square root of -1. Okay, now so when I say enter, you can see it is accepting the value, and if I see the type of this num, it's your complex type. So complex basically means you have a number plus or minus a imaginary number. Okay, now this works. So we have int, we have float, and we have complex. So can I convert from a different type? Example, I have a value which is float and I want to convert that into integer. Is it possible? Let's try. So what I will do here is I will take a variable called as a, and the value in a I will assign as 5.6. I have another variable which is b, and I want to assign the int value of a. Can I convert it? Because if I see the type of a, it's float, right? I want to get the type of b as int, and I want to have the value which is 5. So in that case, you will be using an int function in which you will pass a. So this int function will convert your float value or any value into integer format. And that works. Now if I say the type of b, it's int, and the value of b is 5, right? So we can convert that. Can I convert an int value into float? Yes, we can. So let's say we have another variable which is k, and I want to fetch the value of b, but not in the int format. I want in float format. Yes, we can do that. So I can say float, and in this bracket you can pass it, and you will get. So if I say k, you can see we got 5.0, and of course the type of it is float. We can check it out later. Can I convert a normal number into complex number? Example, I have a variable and I have b variable. So I'm going to change the value for k, and I will assign the k to 6. Okay, so we got b as 5 and k as 6. Now I want to get a complex number. So I will say c is equal to, how do we get a complex number? It's very simple. Just use a complex function the way we are doing. And then you can pass 2 variables here, or only one parameter. When that works. If I want to pass 2 parameters, I can pass b comma k. And if I say c, you can see the value now. So it says 5 plus 6 j, because 5 is your b and 6 is your k. Okay, so it works. So we can convert the value from from here to there. In fact, we can work with string as well, but we'll see that later. Now we also have a type called as bool, which is also called as boolean. Now how can we use a boolean value here? Now when it comes to boolean, it simply means true and false. Now think about this computer world, right? Or in this world, we always take decisions, and decisions are based on true or false. In your mind, we always work with these conditions. Example, let's say if you have 2 choices, you will select those choice which is more favorable or which will be more profitable, right? So we apply conditions there. So if that is more profitable, we'll go there. If this is more profitable, we'll go here. Then the same way, we apply a condition and we get true or false. So that true or false comes under Boolean type. Now we have B and K, right? So if I want to check if B is less than K, we can do that. So less than symbol is less than. And if I say enter, you can see we got true. So true here is a Boolean type, right? And you can assign that to a variable as well. So I will say variable type as bool is equal to B less than K. Now you can see in this bool, if I type bool, you can see it is true. And if I say the type of bool is bool itself, because it's a type name as well, right? So I should have used a different name here, right? So that's Boolean for you. In fact, we have true and we have false as well. Example, if I say B is greater than K, and that's not the case, right? B is 5, K is 6, so it should give you false. So we have true and we have false. Again, there are different operators which we can use, less than, greater than. So we have different operators which we'll discuss in the upcoming videos. But here we can use true or false. But then why I'm keeping true and false in numeric? It should be different, right? The thing is, in Python, what we do is we use true as 1 and false as 0. Example, let's say if I want to convert true into a number, you can see I'm converting that into int format, and you can see we got 1. The same thing if I do for false, you can see we got 0. So true is 1 and false is 0. So that's your integer format, that's your numeric type. So we have talked about none, we have talked about numeric. The next type we have is, in fact, we have discussed those names, right? Those things comes under sequence. So when you say list, range, set, tuple, those things comes under sequence. Now we have worked with list before, right? So how do we define list? It's very simple. You will say lst equal to, you can define a list here. So I can say 25, 36, 45, 12. Any number, any format, doesn't matter. You can take string as well. So this is how you work with list. And how do we know the type of it? So you will say type of LST, and you can see it says it is of type list. The same thing can be done with set. So if I get a set here, I will say s equal to, and you will use a curly brackets there, and inside that you can specify values. So I specify these values, and you can see if I say enter and if I say s, you got the values there, and you can see it is not repeating. And if I define the type of this s, it is set, right? So even this works. Now the another type we have is tuple, which we have worked with again. So I will say t is equal to, so we have to use a round bracket here. I will say 25, 26, you can use any format, doesn't matter, right? You can see we got t, and if I say type of t, here is tuple. Okay, now we also have a string type, right? So how do we define a string type? It's very simple. You say str is equal to, and you can specify a name here using double quotes or single quotes, both works. I can say my name, that's Naveen, and using str you can perform certain operations. Again, we have done that in detail in earlier videos, right? So if you want to know more about list and tuple, you can go back to the previous videos and you can watch it. In this video, we are just talking about the data types available. How about character? Because we have not talked about character, right? And if you are coming from some other languages like Java, C, C++, we do have a char type there. Now in Python, we don't have a char type. What we have is, if you are creating a string, let's say I will say this is st is equal to, and if you have a single digit or single character, that's a char type for you. But actually it is string, because even if you say type and if you specify st, you can see it says class str, which is string in this case. So we have string, we don't have char as to be specific, but we can use char as a part of string. Now we have another fancy stuff which is there in Python but not in other languages, called as range. Example, when you iterate, or what is iteration means, going from one value to the end value. Example, from 1 to 10 or 10 to 100, or maybe from 1 to 1000. So when we iterate between values, we can use range. How do we define range? It's very simple. You say range, and you give a curly brackets and specify the range. Example, I want to go till 10. So we got a range from 0, and we have 10 values, which is 0 to 9. How do we know what values we have? So what we can do is we can actually convert the range into a list so that we can print it, right? So what I will do is I will say list of range, and we'll say 10. In fact, there is another way of doing this. We can also use a for loop, but unfortunately we have not done that yet. So we'll not be focusing on for loop here because we have a better way of printing it. But as of now, just to get the output of the range, I'm converting a range into a list so that you can see the output. And you can see this is the range. So if I want to get a list of, let's say, 10 values from 0 to 9, we will use a range there. Okay, but you might be saying, what if I want to have a range with different iterations, maybe a different difference? Example, I want to print all even numbers from 1 to 10. In that case, you can do that. You can say, I want to start with, or maybe you can start with 2, and then the ending part is 10, and the difference would be 2 because you want even numbers, right? So you can do that, but you have to put that in a range. So range does take 3 parameters as well, and you can see we got 2, 4, 6, and 8. So I should have went till 11, right? Because that's the ending part. Okay, so this is how you can use a range. In fact, you can just type here and you can say range. Of course, right, it will give you range as it will give you range type. So that's one type you can use, and all these things comes under sequence, right? Because we are getting a sequence of values. And now we have one of the most exciting type, which is called as mapping, or you can say dictionary. Now what is dictionary? Normally what happens, when you have huge amount of data, and even when you want to fetch data in an efficient way or in a fast way, what you can do is, with every value you can assign a key. Normally in list what we do is, for the value we assign an index number, right? But in dictionary, for every value we'll assign a key. Example, let's say I want to have all the mobile phones names. Example, so let's say in my friend group, if I have, let's say, 50 phones, imagine everyone has a different phone here. So we can do an index number, right? So index number 0, iPhone 6s, index number 1, Samsung, maybe Samsung J8, index number 3, OnePlus 3, index number 4, let's say MI5. So we want to have all these numbers. Now instead of having index numbers, we can use a key, which is your name. Example, who has OnePlus 3? Let's say Kiran. Who has iPhone 6s? Let's say Rahul. Who has Samsung? Let's say Navin. So in this case, every mobile phone has a name or a key attached to it. So it will be easier for you to fetch, right? Okay, now it's not just about string, okay? You can also use numbers, you can also use, example, roll numbers. Example, when you go for giving your CET exams or entrance exams, you get a number, right? That's your key. So you can identify each object with a key. How do I do that here? Oh, there's one thing to remember. Key should be unique. So if you have a dictionary, all the keys has to be unique. And values, you can repeat values. Let's try it out. How do we define a dictionary? It's very simple. Let's say D is equal to, you have to use a curly brackets. Now why curly brackets? Because keys should not repeat, and what doesn't repeat? Set, and set uses curly brackets, right? So it makes more sense here. So I will use a key as, let's say, Naveen, and then I will use a value. Let's say Naveen has a phone which is Samsung. We can give another value by giving a comma, and here I will say who has this value. Let's say Rahul. Rahul is using, let's say, iPhone, and then we have one more, let's say Kiran, and Kiran is using OnePlus. Okay, now this is, I made a mistake there. Okay, so I just missed a colon here, right? So that was my bad. If I try to print D, you can see we got the key and a value pair. So in this case, Naveen, Rahul, and Kiran, those are keys. How do I know those are keys? You can say D dot, you can print the keys, and you can see we got these keys. You got Naveen, Rahul, and Kiran, those are keys. And if you want to get the values, I guess we have a method with values. Yes, so we do have a method which is values, and if I say enter, you can see Samsung, iPhone, and OnePlus, those are values. Now how do I get a particular value? Let's say I want to get iPhone here. In this case, I have to use a key, right, which is Rahul in this case. So I will say D square bracket. If in list we use index numbers, right? We don't have index numbers here. We have a key. So we'll use Rahul as a key, and if I enter, you can see we got iPhone. So that's dictionary. In fact, we have one more way of fetching value. Instead of using a square bracket, we can also use function like get. In this get, you can mention, hey, I want to fetch, let's say, Kiran's phone, which is OnePlus, right? So you can use a square bracket, you can use a get method, everything works. That's how you work with data types. So we have different data types. Let me just list those things once again. So we have none, we have numeric types, we have sequence. In sequence, we have list, range, set, tuple, and then we have mapping, in which we have dictionary. So I hope it makes sense. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section, and do click on the like button if you're enjoying this session. So